entrance.
What are they doing here?
The back exit. They're beautifying and all. But ये जो है ना, we should use the back exit because then we don't get anything, any traffic, and we just go.
Oh, it's recording then.
Oh shit! Sorry, didn't know. Okay. Welcome and good morning. That is right. It is a very pleasant morning. Reporting from the middle of Oscars. Currently heading towards IIT Delhi. Heavy traffic on the Aurobindo Marg, probably because we're tad bit late. And today we have a surprise special. Garima didn't know this, but today, if all of you didn't know, she's been doing podcasts with her senior alumni from IIM Ahmedabad. So today we put Garima on the spot, and I am going to interview her. So Garima, this is for all of you watching who are now entering IIM Ahmedabad. Just on tips on what not to do once you enter. But no, very seriously. So Garima, this will be inspiring for I think anyone who's looking to do an MBA and is in the very very early stages of their career, just probably finished undergrad or maybe finishing undergrad, very seriously thinking about CAT and doing an MBA. I'm really putting you on the spot too. That's why I'm eating like a pig. So this is for all of you because I think it can help people. You don't talk about the details of your journey enough because that's how people learn. Not what you achieve, but the path that you've gone on. And yeah, that's it. So my first question to you is, so what made you do an MBA? Why? MBA really doesn't make sense for anyone to, but why would you want to do it?
I wanted to do an MBA because I was in advertising before that, and I realized very quickly that
Say it, पैसा चाहिए था.
हाँ.
You were hesitant how to put it diplomatically and nicely, but that's the reality.
कैसे मैं बताऊँ अपनी सच्चाई? But सच्चाई यही थी that
I think मतलब
मेरा lifestyle मैं afford नहीं कर पाती advertising salary पे. So that's why I thought, मतलब you can obviously get there. You have to put in the hard work. You have to be there, and you have to really kick ass. But there is one
at the early
shortcut.
stages, it's not a very high.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for any job, right? And doing a master's.
Well, not for tech. In today's world. Yeah, your journey.
But there is a shortcut to that, which is that if you do an MBA, you are able to go onto the brand side rather than the agency side, and brand side roles on the marketing team pay better. So that's why I wanted to do an MBA. Yeah, that's why.
Got it. And how did you? I think you studied in the third year as well for CAT a little bit, right? Or you thought about it?
मैंने दिया था third year में, but वो दिया था because my dad was like दे दो. So I
आपने
gave
कैसा
it.
किया?
बहुत ही मतलब random. Like I think I got like a good score in English because वो natural थोड़ा वो है मेरा skill set. But like quant has always been my weak point. So I think I got maybe like the 80th percentile or something on quant. And your sectional cutoff is a bare minimum of like 83-85 उस time पे जो होता था.
So by chance वो qualify हो जाता, then you might have just done.
Who knows? But obviously मतलब it wasn't like a great score. So I wouldn't have gotten like a IIM PC type.
वो नहीं होता. Even with the English score.
नहीं मेरा total score was I think something like 95 percentile or something. उसमें English was 97 and maths was मतलब quant was 80.
And then basically the next year you didn't take anything because you were at Xavier's Institute of Communication in Mumbai studying a course in communication and advertising. PGD, no, what was the PGDM, postgraduate diploma in
communication and marketing.
तो PGDM क्यों? PGD हुआ ना? अच्छा diploma like DM.
No.
then
PGDM जैसे IMA वाले कोर्स को अब MBA बोल सकते हैं, but पहले PGDM होता था.
वो तो IMA. I was asking
in management.
That I understand. So what was the XIC course called? Is what I'm asking you.
Postgraduate diploma in advertising and marketing communication.
Got it. I'm glad you remember the course in
Of course I do.
in its entirety. Now, moving on to the next question.
Chicken nuggets.
But how will I ask my question?
Okay.
So then you finished XIC, and I think you really had a super time, and you loved advertising, and I think that's where you really wanted to be.
Yeah, that's true. At my heart, in my soul.
And then you finished there, you summer interned somewhere, and that's where you joined after your job.
I'm actually wearing.
No, I'm talking about
Xavier's.
I'm talking about Xavier.
Okay.
Bringing it slowly, because I think the decision to do an MBA, that's the real part. Enough people talk about मैंने ये कर लिया और वो coaching आपको मिल जाएगा, but like that shift is what I was trying to go into the details of.
बोल ना फिर आगे.
So what like if you love advertising so much, if you knew that's what you wanted to be, money के लिए आपने इतना बड़ा decision ले लिया.
हाँ मतलब money was one part of it. The other part of it was that when you're on the agency side, very rarely do you have control over what the campaign is going to look like creatively, budget wise, etc. So those decisions obviously are going to be taken by the brand team, right? You are essentially an extended team who is going to execute. So you come up with the idea, but the approval, the budget, everything lies on the brand side. So a lot of times what happens is that your idea gets whittled down by budget, by अच्छा नहीं लेकिन टाइम इतना है, अच्छा नहीं लेकिन ये नहीं कर सकते, अच्छा नहीं ये ब्रांड में फिट नहीं, जो भी है वो सारी चीज़ों की वजह से then obviously your idea tends to become a different version of what it was at the end of it, right? So obviously then execution also is different. I personally found that is a bit of a draining process, being on that receiving side of okay but no, okay but no, okay but no. So I think somewhere in my mind I was in that frame of mind, no, I want to go on the brand side because that will mean I have way more control and I will be the one who will be doing these things and they'll all be cool and all of that, right? But of course then I did my MBA and then went on the brand side and then I realized कि अच्छा दोनों साइड पे फंसे ही होते हो तुम basically. On the brand side मतलब obviously the role is also completely different on the brand side. Your brand side role is more project management. If you were to strip it of all the cool aspects of it being a cool brand and budgets are big and you're working on these things and you're the owner of that project, essentially it is project management, right? The creative work is being outsourced to the agency. You take decisions, and I'm using inverted commas because it is not just you as a brand manager. There's going to be a host of people above you who actually have way more say. So it's the same thing, right? There's struggle on both sides, but पैसा ज़्यादा है brand side पे.
Okay, but now even with Sploot, now you have your own brand. Here you own the brand. You're the authority, right? On deciding on. मतलब everyone else contributes and all of that, but you have full say. Yes or no. So
हाँ मतलब technically you're correct, but I find that I think that perception of what it means to be the owner of a brand has really changed for me. I think when you're studying it, not theoretically in college, you are in that idealistic frame of mind of when I go, I will do this and I will be the best and I will do it a certain way. Why don't they do things like this? You're in that thing of अरे लेकिन जब मैं like even when Sploot started, I was in that thing of I will show people how it's done and I will kind of do this and whatever. But I think what I've realized at least in the last 3 years is that even though you may feel like तुम founder हो और तुम brand का decision ले रहे हो या जो भी हो, a lot of those decisions are actually dictated by who you're trying to serve, right? So it's not up to me to say कि this is what the brand is like. I have to, if I'm building a product or a service or a community or whatever you want to call it, I'm doing it for obviously somebody on the other side who's going to be receiving it. I can't be pushing what I want down their throats. I have to build what they want.
So that's where consumer insight comes into play.
Consumer insight, I also feel like consumer insight to हाँ, but I think that's a very traditional way of looking at brand building and marketing in general. I think now brands are not decided by one team or one agency and then हमारा ये brand होगा और ये archetype होगा और इस तरीके से हम communication करेंगे. I think it is co-created with the audience. Now with everything being on social media, with everything having direct feedback from who your audience is, I don't think you can afford as a brand owner or as somebody who's building a brand to ignore that viewpoint. It's never going to be just you and your team and your agency and whatever else sitting in a room and deciding what the brand is. There is always this third participant, which is the audience, and their opinion counts for way more. I think.
And they can give you feedback in a much, that loop is much shorter, I guess.
Much shorter, and honestly, like, I think that's the best thing ever, because otherwise क्या होता है कि आप at least from my limited experience working on brands or working on the agency side, everything is done by the book, right? Of course, there's a lot of research that goes into it. There's a lot of coordination that has to happen across teams, across countries, whatever, for that book to be actually followed. And there is a reason why that book is made. But I just feel that at the stage we're in, we're very early stage, so we also have the luxury of taking direct feedback. Taking direct feedback, right? 50 लोग ने मुझे बोला कि ये बहुत ही गंद है, then I can immediately impact it, because it's literally like 3 of us sitting in one room and making that change.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do it obviously with a big brand where you've got things.
No, true. I was thinking about it, like systems put in place. Like now that we have say 15 different people talking to our customers in the team, everyone from a different lens, some from a community lens, some from a service point of view, some from a customer success point of view. Everyone's way of talking is very different, and you realize in that we want, like, our brand is like, we've made it a certain way, and we want people to at least come close to that tone. Not everyone can necessarily match that tone, so that's when you set a system, that's when you set a process, that's when you set up some guidelines, and slowly I guess as you grow you will have to have restrictions, otherwise how do you keep aligned? Like that's the so yeah, early stage जो करना है कर लो, enjoy.
वही मेरे को actually exciting ये लगता है that for example any other brand जो अब बड़ा brand है, right, जो legacy brand बन गया है, when they had probably started out the number of years ago that they would have started off, getting this feedback is that traditional model, right? You will find customers, you'll do a focus group discussion, you'll speak to them, or you'll stand at the store and talk to them, all of that. Here now, because we're doing social media related, everything is out there. It's, and of course, given that we have a sizable audience at least right now, right, to get that feedback as well, it's so easy to actually get that feedback and then correct course in terms of this is where I want to be, right, or this is where people need me to be to solve this problem for them. So I think that's a level of learning that I haven't learned. XIC में नहीं होता, obviously that is not the traditional way of doing it. I'm sure now it's much different, right? Now it's very
correct. And MBA में तो definitely नहीं होता. Which brings me back to the question. I think we can explore this topic much longer, and we can have a separate session just on the brand side, etc., and marketing side. But today the topic of discussion, as you'd forgotten, and as did I for a couple of minutes there, was about MBA. So you then decided to leave your job and study for 4 months. That's or 3 months. How long was it?
2-3 months before grad.
2-3 months. Okay. And that process was easy. मतलब पढ़ लो कर लो सब हो गया done. Marks आ गए, luck था. क्या
हाँ, मतलब luck तो होता ही है. It's not one day exam, how you're feeling on that day, how well that exam went, गर्मी थी नहीं थी. There's a lot of variables that you can't control on that one single day.
But an exam like CAT also depends on your general aptitude, etc. So, if you've been quick at comprehension, if you've been good at your
of course.
English,
if
you know your basic math very well, etc., then it is a shorter window for you to study. अगर वो नहीं किया, you probably need a little more time to just.
So for me, it was more actually sitting down and having that routine in place.
So that's why you quit. You tried studying.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing weekend classes. वो सब मैं कर रही थी. But I know myself, and I know that on weekends I have very little motivation to do stuff which I find boring. And studying for CAT is not the most exciting thing to do in the world, because it is. I mean, you basically need to be a little bit like a machine, right? You have to have that routine in place in terms of एक टेस्ट मेरे को रोज करना ही करना है. मेरे को ये वाली जो चीज़ें जो मेरे वीक पॉइंट्स हैं, राइट, सो इफ इट्स वीक फॉर यू, यू ऑब्वियसली डोंट वांट टू गो थ्रू दैट process of this makes me feel like shit, but that's why you need to be a machine about it, that this is weak, so I need to work on this and I have to do it every single day for me to be able to improve. So that process for me was mind-numbingly boring, honestly. And I found that when I had to balance it with my job, which was very, very exciting because I was working in advertising, very difficult for me to keep that balance. So yeah.
So that's why you quit. And
I needed to quit, but
and then you took the weekdays classes also.
I didn't take the classes as much as मतलब मैंने maths की जैसे ली थी. Not so much के concept समझ नहीं आ रहे, but more because वो regularity बन जाती है. That if you got like a 1 hour class every day, you know you have to have a routine before and after it. So it just creates some structure in your day. Otherwise, it's very easy to fall into हाँ ठीक है, I have 24 hours. I can do this in the evening also. करते 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 निकल जाता है. The same thing that happens with working out. So.
Got it. And then exam हुआ, फिर clear मतलब the result came out 2-3 months after, I'm guessing Jan में.
That's right.
And what are you doing?
December में आ गया था, फिर interviews थे.
And then what are you doing in December?
Then I was actually working with a friend of ours for a couple of months, मतलब helping out, not like working, but
Shwari and Shwari.
chilling. Yeah, they had an agency that time. So,
Oh, old cheese.
yeah. Then
Or
साथ
you
में I
were
was
working on the project, the 48-hour project.
I mean, honestly, like I did very little work. I did more of the chilling. I want to be absolutely honest.
But ठीक है, your name was in the credits, so contribution
मतलब ठीक है
accepted.
ना, वो दोस्त हैं तो डाल देंगे. But they did all the heavy lifting.
I hope it's not on your resume.
Of course it is.
Is that what you're...
छोटे मोटे झूठ तो बोलते ही पड़ते हैं.
तो ठीक है, that brings us to your interview because resume is directly linked to your interview.
So I was also simultaneously interviewing with the Delhi Daredevils that time.
Interviewing?
IPL team है.
और
मतलब एक
working?
राउंड तो
अच्छा,
किया था ना
start कर
इंटरव्यू
लिया था.
के. शुरू मार्च में हुआ था. इंटरव्यू मेरे पहले हो गया, मतलब वो इंटरव्यू प्रोसेस हो गया था, फाइनल हो गया था, मार्च से शुरू करना था. मेरा इंटरव्यूज जो IIMs वाले थे वो Jan-Feb में थे. So I hadn't actually started working, but वो इंटरव्यू प्रोसेस पहले था.
And which IIMs did you get a interview call from?
अहमदाबाद, इंदौर,
Lucknow.
कोझिकोड, कोड़ीकोड. I think यही थे 3-4.
And you cleared all?
I cleared Lucknow and Ahmedabad. As far as I remember, है ना?
Yeah. I don't know, मेरे को क्या पता, तेरी जिंदगी है.
Ahmedabad तो obviously.
But Kozhikode you missed out because of
I
what was the
cleared
question?
Lucknow as well, but Ahmedabad का बाद में आया था लखनऊ के.
अच्छा.
So, what?
So what were your interviews like? All 4 of them different interviews or same interview?
No, different interviews. I honestly felt like there was no one format of interview style, all of that. Like some interviews I felt like I was being put on the spot and बिल्कुल ही ऐसे stress वाला thing, which personally is not my favorite style of interview because I just feel that I clam up. I am not the best at stress interviews. I become very defensive. It's not my strength. So those ones I bombed. Goes without saying.
So in today's generation, is bombed like bad or good?
Bad.
Okay, got it. Since you're
Just checking.
up to date with Gen Z lingo and I am not.
I'm sure this is also not Gen Z lingo और ज़्यादा हो गई अब. Yeah, this is millennial trying to be cool
Okay,
lingo.
got it. Then?
And then yeah, मतलब Ahmedabad वाला went well. It was
So
more
what
like
it
a
was
conversation.
resume or what
They
did
had
they
2 rounds Ahmedabad में. पहले एक case study वाला round था where they gave you a case study and then I think you had half an hour or something to write your way of solving that case. So they give you a real life situation, like you're a manager in this situation, something goes off, इसने ये किया, ऐसे किया, what would you
So
do?
do you remember your case?
I don't, but it was something like this. So it was basically
Something like this. ये किया वो किया तो किसी कहानी में भी होगा.
मतलब
But
like
sure, we get your point.
मेरे को
You
नहीं
don't remember.
exactly यार, but you basically case studies are essentially that you are the manager in that situation or you are a stakeholder in that situation. How would you navigate that situation? So obviously the case that they're giving to you in the interview process is going to be more HR focused. How would you handle this as a person, not specifically कि operations की problem को कैसे solve करोगे या marketing की problem कैसे करोगे. करोगे.
But at a certain level, मतलब managerial role में any sector, I'm guessing a lot of your problems are just
Absolutely.
people and how you मतलब
Absolutely.
knowledge comes, technical knowledge comes into
Absolutely,
play.
but obviously this was before you have done the MBA, na? So this was generally understanding what your capabilities are as
ठीक
a
है.
manager or whatever.
As an audience, we've understood your point on that. So, do you remember any question where you really messed up? एक कुछ था.
In the interview?
Yeah, they asked you what is the capital of Kerala and you were like Kozhikode or something like that.
No, that's not what I said. Sorry, that's not what it was. Excuse me.
But कुछ था. They asked you where is Calicut and you were like, it's a different. क्या था?
अरे यार.
So just to show you that I'm Ahmedabad. Kids are also
Whatever.
kind
I knew Kozhikode,
Yeah.
but I did not know it's also called Calicut.
Wow, Garima. Wow.
नहीं पता था. Why?
Wow.
I know the Indian name ना.
You don't remember Zomarin
नहीं
thing
यार,
of
मैंने यूपीएससी की पढ़ाई नहीं करी थी.
Calicut.
मैंने कैट की पढ़ाई करी थी. उसमें हिस्ट्री का कुछ नहीं होता. सॉरी टू से.
तो देखो ये है लाइफ लेसन. आप जिंदगी भर बहुत मेहनत से पढ़ो और सब कुछ पता हो तब भी आप यूपीएससी क्लियर नहीं कर सकते. लेकिन आप बिल्कुल नहीं पढ़ो, आपको ये भी नहीं पता कि कैलिकट और कोरिकोड सेम है, आप कैट क्लियर कर सकते हो. Whatever conclusion you want to make from that, you please make.
Sure thing.
Yes.
Wonderful. ये ना एपिसोड आपका जो रिकॉर्डिंग है, this has become some 21 minutes now.
So we're asking about your life. It doesn't have to be everything. Doesn't have to be vlog.
Lord, I'm just gonna watch it.
ठीक है, you just have to put it out. You don't know how many kids are studying, looking at the same career path. They might find it useful. Put your contact info. They might call you and ask you for advice. Give them
Please,
advice.
I get enough calls. Hello, ma'am, dog. I'm not interested in more calls.
Genuine calls for genuine mentorship.
Comment below. Engagement बढ़ा लेंगे.
हाँ वो कर लेना.